Good evening, everybody. I want to welcome everybody to our, I don't know if this is our 6th or 7th town hall meeting to discuss our reopening and how school and everything is going. We have a few people. We have Ms. Gage and Mr. Toman from our school board. We have Mr. Ersick, our HR director. We have Dr. Westinghouse is on, curriculum instruction. And I know Dr. Kapler will be joining us, charge of PPS, and Marlene Butler is on also, our director of special education. We have some of our building principals. So hopefully we have everybody on board for any questions that we can answer. And I see that Jane Santamore just logged on. She is our business director. So we're going to try to do the best we can to answer all of your questions. Once again, if you aren't muted, please try and mute. Put your questions in the chat, and we will do everything we can to answer them. We also save the chat questions, so if it's something we don't have the answer to tonight, we can post that answer on our website. We go through everything, and like I said, our goal is to do everything we can to answer any questions anybody has. So I'll wait for those to pop up. While we're waiting for a few questions to pop up, just a kind of status of where we're at right now. We are in the middle of our hybrid model. I'm very proud of how successful we've been. We had a couple glitches in the beginning, but I think our staff, our students, and our parents are doing an amazing job helping us to be safe, which means when we're being safe, we're being open. We know it's so important for our students to be in school, those ones who want to be. We also want to support our students that are staying remote. We know this is challenging for our community, for our parents, for our students, and for our staff. So I really appreciate the effort and time that everybody's putting. I'm very fortunate to be serving such an amazing community that has been going above and beyond to support our students, our staff, and all our stakeholders. So that's where we're at as far as anything new with our plan. As we had talked about in September, one of our goals was, if things continue to move in a positive way, to increase the students that are coming 4 days a week. As we had talked about, our first goal was to increase those students that were in our self-contained classes. So now those students that chose to come 4 days a week, they are. The next group of students that we worked with were our students, the English language learners. They are now coming 4 days a week. We're looking at our at-risk seniors, those students that may be in jeopardy of not graduating in June. We've been able to accommodate more of our seniors to come 4 days a week. The next group we're now looking at is our elementary students that are students with disabilities and our students that are Tier 3 RTI. So we're going to continue to increase our capacity as the CDC guidelines allow, and making sure that our students and our faculty are working in the safest possible learning conditions. But once again, I'm around to all the buildings. Our students are doing everything they need to do. Our teachers are doing an amazing job. Our custodians, I could not be more proud of the effort that's being put forth by everybody for us to maintain what we're doing. I don't know if I have any questions yet. Okay, so there's no questions, so I'll keep filling in updates. As you know, there's been recent protocols and guidance put out in terms of the different zones. As you know, there's schools south of us that are considered to be in the yellow zone. So we're not good. We have a question here. Is there any data showing that there have been confirmed cases that have been spread at school? Is there any statewide data on this? Thanks for asking. We just received something from SANUS. It's a document that all administrators get. And there's been another study. It doesn't actually have the numbers. I would pull it up, but I'm afraid I would lose my screen. It actually is showing that there is not a massive spreading in schools. I don't have the exact number, but I can post that article on our website. But there has been research showing that the spread is not happening in school. Governor Cuomo came out with a similar comment, Executive Ryan, similar comments, and Dr. Fauci. That this, so far, luckily, the spreading is not being traced back to the schools. And I commend our students, our staff, and our parents on that. Our students are doing an amazing job of following the protocols, and our staff is helping our students and supporting them. How far in advance are these reopening meetings made? I apologize for this one. This was the only one that couldn't be the last Thursday of the month because of the break. So our goal has always been the last Thursday, but last week we had Thanksgiving. So I will make sure that the one we have in January, we get that notice out in advance. So I apologize for that.
On the second page of the daily updates, we have like a monthly calendar with important events coming up. So please check those for future meetings as well.
Okay. Did everybody hear what Mr. Ursig just said? On our notifications that go out every day, on the second page are upcoming events, and it's on there. But I will also, once again, I apologize for that. I will make sure that we do a better job of getting those notices out. I mean, I think I'm thrilled that we have 83 people on tonight. Is there anyone overlooking the remote teaching process? There's specific guidelines for teachers should be following. I have 2 children, 2 and 4th, and workload and expectations are very different. The building principals, that falls under them. The guidelines are, it should be an equitable education. Whatever's happening in school as far as content and skills should be delivered to our students that are not. If you're concerned about the workload or the expectation or the schedule, please reach out to your building principal. We want to make sure that we're meeting the needs of our students that are coming in, our students that are staying home, our students that don't have internet. So please, anything we can do to help, any extra supports we can give our families, please reach out to your building principal. I have full confidence that we're going to continue to work through this difficult time and meet the needs of our students. So while I'm waiting for the next question, we had a couple meetings today about if we turn into a yellow zone, and I'm sure you saw the readings. If we turn into a yellow zone, the requirements are that periodically 20% of the aggregate in-person staff and students need to be tested. So we have I actually have a meeting tomorrow morning with the Ulster County Department of Health and all the other superintendents. I met today with our leadership, and we also got some feedback from our attorneys, also from state aid, on what that state ed, I don't know what that would look like for testing. This testing will be no charge for anybody if it's done through the school. We're looking at that, and we're hoping to have a newsletter out to our families tomorrow, the latest Monday. If something happens and we do switch to a yellow zone, if we can maintain a safe environment and follow the guidance by DOH, we want to keep our students in school as long as we can do it safely and follow the guidance. Any updates on sports modified through varsity? As of right now, no. There was a meeting the Wednesday before Thanksgiving. There was a Mahal meeting, which is the Mid-Hudson Athletic League. Previously to that, there was a Section 9 meeting. As you know, a lot of the schools that we compete with are in Orange County. A lot of the Orange County schools are looking for more of a January 19th start date. The schools in Ulster County, the northern end, are looking at a possibility of a January 4th date. As far as Saugerties for winter sports, the only sport that's been approved by the state so far is bowling. There's been no change on basketball and wrestling. Rumor has it we will hear something from the state prior to the winter break. I've been in contact with Mr. Zarella almost every day, keeping us in the loop. So that's what we know so far regarding sports. Grading, has there been consideration of changing how we grade students like we did in the spring? As of right now, no. Grading policies are something that are very important. We have to be consistent across our schools. The one good thing is, and I want to give our board and our policy committee a lot of credit. We are looking at a credit recovery policy for a first read on Tuesday night for students that are struggling. Once again, if there's a concern over grading or how a student is doing, please reach out to the building principal and the teachers. We know this is challenging for our families and for our students. So, please let us be here to help. and everything we can do to help people. Okay, when you start to bring back the elementary students more days, will you begin with kindergarten, you work your way up each week? Is there a plan for how you implement bringing them back? Yes, like I said previously, the first group that we started with was our students that were self-contained. Our next group were our English language learners, at-risk seniors. Right now, we're looking at our elementary students that are students with disabilities and our students that are RTI Tier 3. The next group we are going to look at is our K2. Once again, it's going to depend on numbers, room capacity, and transportation. But like we had said over the summer, that's been our transition plan, and we've been working with that. I'm not sure we can do it week by week. You know, we want to go slow. We want to be safe. But that's still our plan, and it looks like we're still implementing that. Okay, I want to make sure I don't skip anybody. Okay, so after the first designated positive, more shut down the school due to many staff. I assume this would be the case consistently. I'm assuming that this was looked at closer and we could do a better job. I'm surprised how well we're doing. Once again, this goes back to thanking our staff, our building principals, our students. Dr. Kapler is doing an amazing job. You know, I agree that first week or so, I was thinking that this is not an educationally sound process if we're in and out, but you know, we're wearing our masks, we're staying 6 to 12 feet apart, our windows are open, we're socially distancing, we're reducing our close contact. So, you know, we're doing the little things we can do to keep us open. And once again, it's not me, we just have an amazing staff here and great families. County Executive Pat Ryan reported a single worst 48-hour period since the beginning of Ulster and noted the percentage inquiry. At what percent does hybrid change to remote? There's not a percentage. It goes based on, now they're looking at the microclusters, and the next one for us would be if we were determined to be a yellow zone. Like I said, we had multiple meetings today about what it would look like for us to stay open in a yellow zone. The biggest piece is the 20% aggregate of our student staff being tested for us to stay in the hybrid model. As long as we can maintain the DOH guidance and follow the requirements for the yellow zone, and where our students are being safe, we're going to stay with the in-person model. Excellent question, Dr. Haas. This actually question was asked us today. The zone, I'm not sure if Dr. Kapler is on, but she can correct me. It's a combination of county numbers, county recommendation, and down from the state of exactly what determines. And the zone doesn't have to be a whole town. It can be part of a town. It might not even be the whole district. My 17-year-old says that outerwear is not permitted by the dress code. They cannot use lockers. It won't fit into the backpacks due to, I will check on that. I'm not aware that they can't wear outerwear in school.
Well, traditionally in the normal year, we encourage them to take their jackets and stuff off, but this year they're going to have to carry them with them.
Okay. Yeah, so they can bring it with them. They should be carrying it.
Yeah, Mr. Reinhardt, this is Tim Reed, senior high principal. How are you?
Good, Mr. Reed.
I just wanted to jump in on that. Outerwear is, they are allowed to carry it around in the building with them, put it on the backs of their chairs. We encourage them to bring outerwear to school. We've had some concerns with some kids not being properly dressed. Our gym classes will continue to be going outside to get the kids as much fresh air as possible throughout the day. And we are encouraging them to bring jackets with them so that they're able to go outside. Unfortunately, we can't use lockers right now. That's that we under advisement from the Department of Health and the CDC and the state. But students can bring their jackets, and they're welcome to put them over the backs of their chairs. And unfortunately, they will have to carry them from class to class. The good news is our numbers in the halls and the way that we're transitioning. that extra bulk of having the jackets really not imposing any kind of difficulty for kids to transition from one area to another. So whatever, I'm personally encouraging all parents to make sure that, the kids are properly dressed for school.
Thank you, Mr. Reed. Why is Kingston closing due to higher county numbers, but Saugus is not? The biggest reason for Kingston closing right now is staffing. That seems to be that's what I read from what was put out. I actually live in that district. We've been very fortunate, and I think that as the earlier question had put out, the first couple times, and I think we're doing an amazing job following the little things, the social distancing, keeping the windows open, not congregating, staff being separated, students being separating. So we've been very fortunate. I mean, you see the daily updates. We don't have a lot of cases, and we don't have cases in school. And once again, that's everybody doing their part. If a child doesn't feel well, they're staying home. Staff is doing an amazing job. So we've been very fortunate, so far. Thank you so much. Moving forward and keeping our schools open, especially since some of you are gone remote. It takes a village, but keeping schools open must be a priority. Thank you. Ms. Vale, I agree with Mr. Reed on the dress code comments. $97 people. That's great. Okay, when you guys start back 4 days a week, how many kids can be in a class at a time? How would 4 days look like? Right now, they have half classes, or all kids going back at once? No, we have to do it. The way the guidance comes down from the state is we are required to look at students of need. And once a subgroup of need is quantified, we then have to make sure that every student within that group who would like to return is offered the same equal opportunity to return. So like, for instance, with our self-contained, we got a list of the self-contained. We surveyed the parents, found out how many of them would like the opportunity for 4 days a week, how many needed transportation. Those that needed transportation, could we provide that transportation? So that same scenario, those same questions, the logistical part of it is how we have to go as we continue. Depending on the class, we can fit between 12 and 15. It's the 6-foot parameter, so it's based on the square footage. So that's kind of how we're going to continually grow our population and bring more students back in the building. So it's based on need. We quantify that subgroup. We go through that subgroup with those 3 questions, and then we bring that subgroup back. So that's kind of how we've been working. Okay. When the school opens to everyone, will there still be remote? Yes. So if it gets to the place, let's say the CDC guidelines change for this school year, and we can get, maybe we're at 75% capacity, we're going to continue with some version of our hybrid/remote for those parents that still feel, for varying reasons, that the best opportunity for their child's success and safety is remote. Now, that could change from the governor's office, but as of right now, parents still have that opportunity to stay remote. So, we do know that there's a lot of parents that want their children in school more days. That's why we're going through the logistics of those scenarios of bringing students back. But we also know that there's varying reasons why students may need to stay remote. So as long as the governor gives us that option, we're going to do everything we can to provide education for those students that are in school and those that are home. Okay, I apologize this was answered, but as we profess with opening as possible, will staff be? It depends on the level. If we become a yellow zone, it's 20% of all in-person aggregate people. As of right now, there's no requirement for staff to get tested, but if we hit a yellow zone or greater, a portion of our students and staff will need to be tested. Also, if a student was positive, is the district required a negative test before being allowed to return? I don't have the answer off the top of my head. I know there's a 14-day requirement. Dan?
So they also would have to get permission from a physician, and then our school physician would ultimately determine if it's okay for them to come back or not.
Okay, did everybody hear what Mr. Ersick said? So they would need a return from their physician and our physician to return if they tested positive. Thank you. If there's any plan as to when lockers will be available, coats, instruments, the elementary students have totes. Lockers concerned, is the locker concerned about congregating and sanitation? Both. That's an excellent question. That is the concern. As you know, with lockers, students have a tendency to stand at their lockers and talk. Also, with the locker doors open, the hallways are more narrow. And then once again, that's a greater amount of sanitation to be clean. That's an excellent question. Thank you. I will look into that. We do have a meeting tomorrow morning with the county. I'll see if there's been any change, and if the change, what would be the requirements for us if we decided that we needed to use lockers. Would have to be every 5 lockers or upon a special request. But thank you, that's a great question. How can you return? With the guidance right now, we can't, but what we're looking at, the reason why we are continually doing our surveys is we have a certain percentage of our parents that are choosing to keep their students 100% remote. So we have a survey now out till the end of the second quarter. So we're basing those numbers on how many students we can then bring back. So for instance, if 65% of our students want to return, that allows us more seats in the room and the capacity. So we may average, we'll say we average in our K2, 23 students in a class. If only 65% of those students are coming in, that brings us to that 15, 16 barrier, and we may have the ability with social distancing to fit those into spaces. We have to do the same thing with the buses. So as we start to bring more students back, one of the first questions we say is, do you need bus transportation? So if a student does need to be on a bus, we have to make sure before we bring that whole group back, we have enough seats. So if you look at the numbers mathematically, if you have, 65% of our students would like to come back 4 days a week, what we're finding is of those 65%, half of those students are either providing their own transportation or are walkers. So we're able to, so far as we've grown our 4-day in-person instruction, we've been able to fit them on the bus. But you're right, we can't go beyond any of the guidance documents. So that's why we have to slowly look at our classroom space and bring our most needy students back first. Thank you to the music program leaders for organizing upcoming virtual concerts. Mr. Sprigg has done a wonderful job with the band. Can't wait to view it. Also, thank the teachers who have been so supportive. I agree. I was walking by the auditorium yesterday at the high school, and it's amazing. They're all spread out all over the auditorium, but it was amazing. When hybrid started, my daughter was in 2 classes that didn't have enough desks for the students in the class. She had to sit against the wall in a chair and use her notebook on her desk. Do the teachers know how many students will be physically on their class? What happens when there are too many kids coming in for class? I'll find out. That shouldn't have happened. We should know, but if that happens again, please let me know. What % of students are fully remote right now? Dan, you have a guess on that?
I think it's around 35% who formally requested it.
We have about 34% right now that have formally requested full remote. So moving forward, you will no longer be holding an open space for remote students to return. No, that's not true. We're going to continually do our surveys on a quarterly basis, but as we bring students back for 4 days, there's an understanding that if a remote students choose to come back, then we would have to go back to the previous benchmark that we had set. So like, for instance, if we get to the point where we're bringing more kindergarten and first grade back, it's contingent upon us having those seats. The students at 100% remote maintains that seat, and if it's not being used, we're going to fill it. But parents know the understanding that as they increase, and if things change where more students are coming in person, we have to go back to the last bar that we set. If we have to test 20% of our staff and students, so the tests are provided free by the county. That's where we'll get the supplies, and our nurses started part of the training today. So it'll actually be our nurses here on site. So a student may decide to return and be unable because of, no, the previous person had said, as we move forward, the understanding is that we may have to move back if people that were remote choose to come back. That's why we're doing it slowly, and you know, it's a numbers game, and we have to make sure that we're doing things properly for everybody. Thank you for reading each question aloud. This helps everyone follow. The test or the rapid test, I don't know if Dr. Kapler is on. Dan, do you remember? I know it's not the PCR test, right?
It's not the PCR, it's a rapid test. The test, we should have results within 30 minutes if we administer it.
Okay, so it's a 30-minute test. I don't think it's the PCR, but
It's not the PCR.
it's definitely not the PCR. Can a family choose to? Yeah, if a family is going to and doesn't want to go to the 4, that's totally fine. That's part of, as we start increasing our subgroups, the questions are, do you want the 4 days? Do you want to stay 100% remote? Can you provide your own transportation? And do you need the transportation? The testing is supposed to be random. Part of the newsletter that will go out will be the consent from a parent for the child to be tested.
And it's very untraditional. Not only the more obligation.
How it's supposed to be a random test of students that the parents have given permission. The goal, though, obviously, is if we can't test 20%, we can't stay open. We have to be able to test 20% if we get to the point where we're a yellow zone. Do school bus windows need to be open regardless of the weather to abide by COVID? Will this change? I don't have the answer to that, but I will get that posted, Christine. Okay, did I miss one here?
20% will be selected. You get that one?
Oh, okay. What happens if a parent doesn't give permission? Does the student have to stay remote? Well, what we're hoping is, and the requirement is, we need to be able to test 20%. So if it's to the point where we don't have 20% that we can test, we are going to have to, the district would have to go remote. Since schools don't appear to be the vectors, I like physics word, Dr. Haas, it seems that we can encourage our neighbors and community members to continue to do their part by wearing masks, keeping distance, limiting gatherings, and washing hands. I 100% agree. Once again, I can't say enough about what our staff and what our students and what our families are doing. You know, I agree. If we were doing all of those things all the time, I do think we would slow the spread. Our students are doing an amazing job. Our staff, our faculty and staff, you know, of the social distancing, wearing the mask during the day, you know, not gathering, being out, you know, we have our gym classes outside. I agree. I think the more we can continue everybody to do the little things, the better chance we have of keeping our students safe and keeping our schools open. Would teachers have part of their class 4 days a week, another part? No, if a student comes back 4 days, they would stay with their same schedule. If a student tests positive, it would be the same as if a student would test positive anyway. They would be notified. The parents will be bringing them in, and then everything would go through our nurses, through our PPS director, like it does now, and to be obviously the notification of Ulster County DOH. Thank you, sir. Is it possible for all teachers to live stream all their classes? Why do only some live stream and others some? All teachers have the capability. We have provided the equipment. We've met with teachers. I know there's teachers that at the beginning there were some concerns, you know, and it was parents of students that were in the classes that also had some concerns about privacy. I like the idea of more teachers streaming, but there's teachers that are being very successful by other means by using flipped class. Once again, though, if you have a concern and you feel like there's missing skill and content, you know, reach out to your teacher, find out what we can do to meet the needs, reach out to the building principal. My children carry quite a few items, school binders, lunch coats through the day. The weight and bulk of these is substantial. We're concerned about the amount of weight and bulk they're carrying all day. Is there a way to lessen the load and keep heavier items at home instead of having to lug them around? That's a good question. Meet with the building principals, and we have our department chair meetings. We can find out if there's textbooks that are required or the textbooks that we happen to have a class set. So we can reduce the amount of items coming in and out of the building, not only for students having to carry them around, but less items that there's a possibility for contamination. So thank you. I really appreciate it. That's a good point. And when we meet with the principals and the leads, we can talk about reducing, you know, the amount of materials that have to be brought in and out every day. Thank you. We appreciate the daily reports. The change in format is confusing, though. It's hard to understand what has happened since the last report. I appreciate a review of the report format and hope to see some improvements. Okay, we can look at that. Thank you. Since rapid tests will be given for 20% testing, will the school accept the rapid test? Yes, we will. Part of the letter that will go out, we will accept tests that are done by an outside agency. It's just, it has to fall within the same window of the criteria that we're required to test the 20%. So we'll have that in the letter as well. But that's a great question. And we actually had that conversation this morning when we were talking to some other school districts. We are allowed to take tests that are done, that don't have to be done through us.
Just to clarify that, though, there are some tests that the county doesn't recognize. I'm not sure that's what they're hinting at.
Okay, yeah, so we'll make sure that if there's tests that the school is allowed to accept, we'll make sure that we let parents know. We don't want someone to get a test and find out it's not one that we're allowed to use toward that 20%. Thank you. If we get to the random testing stage, will parents be notified that the child is being tested? Will we need to be there for the testing, or will the children be pulled? No, the way we're looking at, we think it's the safest way is, once again, this is very, 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 very draft, is we're looking at Wednesday for our testing. We will only test parents that have a parent consent. So you'll be consenting that your child be part of that 20% that is tested. And obviously, yes, you'd be notified right away. Okay, wait, let me make sure I don't miss any. If a student in elementary school attend 4 days a week and 2 days a week, and some attend remotely, it seems teachers will now have 3 teaching scenarios to plan for. Hybrid and remote is very taxing. This would be even more so. I agree. I mean, I think our teachers do an amazing job. We know this is challenging. But we also know that the students we're bringing in are students that are struggling the most. And we want to make sure that we're giving every student an opportunity to be successful. The students in front of them, I mean, we are following our traditional academic calendar. So the students in front will be getting more enforcement and more enrichment. We know this, and I met with some of our bargaining union leadership today, and I explained to them that I think they're doing an amazing job. We know this is challenging, and that's why they need our thanks for how hard they're working to get us through this. Okay. Since tests will be at school, will the school be able to test? That's a good question. That was brought up today. Dr. Kapler actually is reaching out that if we do have these rapid tests on hand and a student does show symptoms, can we test them right away? I know there's been some concern with the designated positive and having to close schools or students quarantine. So we're hoping to have an answer on. Did we get an answer before the end of the day, Dan, or no?
No, I mean, we're hoping to do that. Let Dr. Kapler come closer. So we're hoping to do that. Obviously, we would need to get parent permission from that child. The one thing Dr. Kapler did say is that the rapid test, if it comes back as positive, you're probably positive. If it comes back negative, there's a little bit of ambiguity to that.
Okay.
So it's not so even if somebody we think is going to be designated positive and they take this test, they might have to go get a PCR test to verify the results of it.
All right, thank you, Dan. Why are there not the same requirements for remote, same grades at every school? Why does one grade at one school require online participation 4 days a week and the other schools only requiring 2 days a week? Shouldn't all the students be required to attend the same amount of time along with the same curriculum? I agree. I'll meet with my building principals. We have to make sure that, we have some students that for various reasons cannot log on at all. They may not have Wi-Fi. They may have more than one sibling in a house. I do agree they are following along the same curriculum, the same pacing. Especially at the high school level, students will be sitting for the same final exams. I will check into that, but you're right. The grading should be consistent and the grading should be based on students' knowledge. Is holding a spot for families they are choosing to remote a New York law or a school district? I would assume New York law, but it is New York. The expectation is it's the same as buses. I know when I was a high school principal and when a child could not be on a bus based on the route, but the bus was half empty. That's a New York rule that it has to stay open. So that's how it's working. We're using the quarter benchmark to at least to have some numbers to bring students back. But if there's something happens with a parent and they do have to bring the child back, we do have to make that seat available again. But you're right, that seat has to be maintained. Let's see, I would assume New York law, but I'm curious to how surrounding areas like Aniar and Cairo has families make a decision and stick to it for that quarter at least. I hate to think of these possible wasted seats in September, especially since my youngest can't even fulfill his IEP properly due to only being in person 2 days a week. When is the earliest that K2 may be able to come back? Spring. I'm very ambitious. First of all, the bottom line is always going to be safety. We're looking right now, we met with our elementary principals yesterday. And like I said, the next group we're looking at is our students with disabilities and our tier 3 students, K6. If that goes successful, we're then going to look at our K2. But once again, it's going to depend on, do we have enough seats in the classes and do we have enough seats on the buses? I do think the font gets smaller as the night goes on. Okay. 101, that's great. So while we have a pause in the action, I want to thank everyone. We have 101 people on tonight. I just think that's amazing. I think that's a testament to how much everybody values education and how much we want to meet the needs of our students, both those that are in school and out. If the rapid tests aren't accurate, then why are we using them? What we got from the training today is they're more accurate for a positive than a negative. So if it doesn't test positive, Dan, I'm gonna look right at Dan, so when I'm wrong, he can correct me. If it doesn't test positive, it's not as accurate. But if it tests positive, it is accurate, and then you would be sent, and then you would be tested again. Who's providing the training? Some of the training is done by videos, some is by the Ulster County Department of Health, and we're also working in conjunction with our district physician.
The trainings or videos provided by the manufacturer of the...
Yeah, some of the training is actually videos that come directly from the manufacturing of the test. A lot of teachers, so when it comes to the windows, and I'll see if I can get this article on the website. Being a former physics teacher, I thought the article was pretty cool. But if just by opening the windows periodically throughout the day, the 2 or 3 minutes that the windows are open, and opening the classroom door, it's an amazing how quickly there's a almost complete room exchange in that classroom. So they don't have to be open the entire time, but by periodically opening or leaving that window cracked, you are continually exchanging the air. So if a child is cold, I think we should let the teacher know, but if they're not, just that little bit of air, because of the change in temperature outside, and opening the classroom door really increases the exchange of air. But I'll see if I can find that document, that study, but it was actually pretty amazing. We were talking to the high school and the junior high principal, just by opening the windows and the doors during the change of period would drastically change the air that's in the room. Sorry. If the situation where every seat is full in the classroom and a remote student decides to come back, how will you determine? We would have to go back to the last group where we stopped. So that's the best we can do, because, you know, we have to be fair. So if that's the case, that would be the situation we would have to return back to. So if we got to the point where we had all of our tier 3 students in and all students, I'll explain, hopefully I'll explain this correctly. So let's say if the next group we bring in are students with disabilities and our tier 3 elementary students, everything's going fine. We then decide to bring in, and we can next fit K1. If we came to the point where we had students wanting to return and they could not, we didn't have enough seats, we would have to return back to the previous group where everybody fit, and that would be our elementary students with disabilities and our tier 3. I hope that makes sense. Airflow, yes. And what does last group mean? Hopefully I explained that properly. It's the last group prior to hitting that maximum capacity. So one class will send, I would hope that not one class, I mean, we do have some flexibility, but once again, I can't offer some students 4 days a week and other students only 2 days a week that are part of the same subgroup, whatever we decide that group to be. Margaret, yeah, would it be possible to move students around to make it work? Yes, that's what I meant when I meant there's flexibility. It may be a situation where it's one family. The advantage of a family is they can sit in the same bus. Maybe it's a situation where we have one second grade class that has an extra seat. Maybe we have a room in the building that has a capacity of 16 students and another room has a capacity of 12 students. That's what I meant by flexibility. I apologize for not being clear the first time. So one classroom could end up, if that's the case, I couldn't allow a certain group of students to stay in 4 days a week if I have to send other students back to make the seat. And that's why we would do everything. If we get to that part, what could we do to maintain that capacity, either changing rooms or looking at the buses? Could you also offer the students to attend a different elementary if there's one? Yeah, I mean, I agree. Could you also offer students to attend a different elementary school if one is full to keep the kids in school? We would offer what we could legally. And once again, we have to be fair and equity to all students. So I couldn't put a hardship on a family as well. But you know, rest assured that our administrative staff and our transportation and our teachers are going to do everything they can to help students. Will the high school come back phased as well? What would the grouping in order be? So we've already started looking at some high school grouping. Once again, it's students of most need. The first high school group that came back was obviously the district model of the self-contained, the English language learners. The next group that the high school looked at was the seniors that were at risk to graduate. And I think the next group they were looking at was at-risk ninth graders, but I think Mr. Reed is still on.
Yeah, Mr. Reinhardt, Mr. Reed here. Yeah, we're currently looking right now at risk ninth graders who are in danger of not passing 3 or more classes. We're targeting that group. And we're in the midst of looking at what the impact on class sizes, again, being very careful about the density in a classroom so that we don't put too many kids in one room. Once we pass that test, then we'll confirm with the transportation department that there's room for those students on buses. And then we'll contact the families, you know, that have already shown an interest. And then we'll bring that group in, and we've already started exploring more, you know, future groups and having conversations, and we'll reach out to parents as we get closer to that. But as soon as we get one group in, we take a look, we make sure that the classes are balanced out, that we're not creating any imbalance in the classrooms or on the buses, and then we're immediately meeting and talking about the next priority group. And we're going to continue to do that for as long as we possibly can to continue to bring kids back, as many as we can, still creating a safe situation for everyone.
Okay. Is Ginger on? Does she want to talk a little bit about, I know she was on before.
I am here.
Hi, Ginger, how are you?
I'm good. So yeah, much similar to Mr. Reed, I have some measures going. We're looking at some data about successful versus unsuccessful first quarter data. So we're making a list from there. We're looking at our consultant programs as well. We are also looking at some other measures, and I've actually asked the teams if they've heard anything from parents concerned that would like their children to come back for 4 days for, you know, reasons that can be stated. So I do have a measure tool that I'm using. I'm also cross-referencing the parents that filled out the hybrid survey. I do have access to those results, so I'm looking for parents that did stress that the connection to the internet is a problem. So I'm cross-referencing all those measures to see who we can bring back and in what waves we can bring them back.
Thank you. When does the second quarter end? January 28th, is that right?
I think it might be the 25th. No, wait. In January, I'm not sure which day.
We're checking. I'm thinking the 28th only because I looked at when Regents exams were, which were canceled. We'll get that posted. What are the current guidelines on how many kids are allowed in school? The biggest guidelines right now are the fact that within the classroom, it's that 6 feet between students. That's where we get that between 12 and 15 number. The hallways, we're actually pretty safe. We have the hallways marked. Students are walking on one side of the hallway. We have a line down the middle. The students have been great. We have monitors outside the bathroom, so they're not hanging out in there. I know that was a concern some of the parents had over the summer. That's the biggest ones that we also have to look at when we serve lunch. What we did with our lunchrooms is we took the tables out. We have chairs. The chairs are 6 feet apart. Students can have their mask off while they're eating. We're lucky our lunch periods are only 30 minutes. That's one of the guidelines when it talks about proximate contact. So that's the biggest barrier is students' capacity in the classroom, is that 6 feet between every student. So that's the number that kind of, when Mr. Reed was talking about bringing people back, that's the one, and the 22 students on a bus. It's every other one student per seat unless they are in the same household, and no one sits behind the bus driver. If more students are brought into the school, how are hallways between classes going to be monitored and managed? Same as they are now. I tell you, the students are doing great. I mean, it's so weird because we're so used to hallways being packed. But right now the students are coming out of their classes. They're not congregating. They're going to their next class. They have their mask on. It'll be the same. Like I say, the hallways are marked. They're working on the right side. There's a line down the middle. They're not congregating. So, you know, everything so far, the students are doing a great job. Elementary is the 29th. We just got that from Ms. Kelder. So thank you, Ms. Kelder, did you want to add anything about the phasing in for the elementary, Ms. Kelder, that I might have missed?
I think that you covered it all. You know, you had mentioned that it would be students with disabilities first, and then those RTI students, and we're going to take it slow. We're doing the same thing at the elementary level, cross-referencing, looking at the number of students, the capacity of each classroom, because within the different buildings, the capacity of the classrooms differ based on when a particular wing of a building may have been built. So some of the classrooms are smaller. So we're working on all those measures to see how we can safely bring students back.
How is lunch currently set up? The whole lunch period is at the desk. I'm not sure if this is elementary or high school. At high school, the students are actually going to the cafeteria. They're sitting at a desk. Elementary, they eat their lunch at their desk. I'm not, if Ms. Kelder is still there, if you can explain how the recess component of that works.
So the students, the lunches are brought to the classroom. The students have the lunches at their desk. They wash their hands first. Their desks are clean first. They eat their lunches. When they're all done with lunch, they empty their tray into a garbage pail like they used to, which is right outside the hallway door. They wipe their desk again. They gather their outerwear, and then the lunch monitor walks them outside, and they have recess. And it's 20 minutes to eat and 20 minutes to go outside, just as it used to be.
Good. Thank you, Ms. Kelder. How will we be notified if our child, so to be the same process, Mr. Reed and Ms. Kelder and Ms. Vale, once a subgroup is decided, they'll start notifying the parents of those 3 questions. Do they want 4 days a week? Do they need to provide transportation? If they do need transportation, and then we have to decide if we can manage that due to capacity on the buses and capacities in the classroom, and then parents will be notified. High school, they get recess at lunch? I don't think so. Do they, Dan?
We have a half-hour lunch this year. I'm not sure if students are going outside. I don't believe
so. It's only a half hour this year. I know last year it was 45 minutes and they did 30 and they could go out the last 15 that they wanted. But I don't think that's it this year.
We have breaking action. Can you remind everybody about breakfast and lunch are free this year?
Yeah, a couple reminders of things coming up. Breakfast and lunch for all students is free. So, you know, if your child, just let your child know that when they come in the building, they can grab breakfast. Lunch is free for all students in the district. So please, let's take advantage of this. Another thing I'd like to remind everybody is December 15th is our capital project vote. It's a tax neutral. The signs are all over town. The voting will be 12 to 9 at the elementary schools. There will be no students in school. The students will have a half a day. They'll be exited at their normal half day, which is around 11:30. We will have gloves, we'll have masks, we'll have hand sanitizers, we'll have social distancing. Randy and his crew and the building principals and Sherry have done a great job of setting everything up in terms of making sure that it'll be a safe vote for everybody. So I want to, encourage you. I can't tell you how to vote. I can just encourage you to vote. And it'll be at the same elementary schools where you always vote. Let's see, what's the nearest yellow zone and how close are we? The nearest yellow, I think, is probably still the top of Orange County. I looked at the map today. Where we are, so far, we're pretty good. One of the big numbers that goes into the yellow zone is the hospitalizations. which is still relatively low. So that's a good thing. Before this started, Dan and I were actually reading some of the numbers about the hospital beds and the capacities throughout the state. It would be nice for junior, senior high school kids to go outside for a quick walk at the end of their lunch if they wanted to get a fresh air and air mask. They already have their coats. I'm sure, well, Tim and Ginger are both on, so I'm sure they can think about that. Thank you so much. Thanks for keeping the schools safe, schools open and keeping everyone safe. To learn more about the capital project, you can go to our website, and I really want to thank the community. I think I've been at about 15 meetings. The capital project team and myself, we had parents on our team. We've got construction people. We got architects. We have Randy. Have done an amazing job of getting the word out to our community and make we're talking about safety of our schools. You know, a safe building that's running efficiently, heating, new roofs, everything is important for our students. Okay, vote, 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 such a good deal. Absolutely, we need to keep up with maintenance needs. Thank you, yes to getting junior, senior high outside. Thanks again for all you're doing. So it's almost 7:30. Once again, I can't thank everyone enough. You know, we had over 100 people again tonight. We have an amazing staff. Our teachers are working hard. Everybody top to bottom, our clerical. There's not a person coming to work every day in Saugerties that doesn't want our students to be successful. And we know that success starts with student achievement. It also, we know, goes down as far as our students feeling safe, feeling comfortable. We're providing meals, we're providing Chromebooks. But once again, at any time, you know, if you have a concern or there is a question, don't wait to pick up the phone. One of the things, you know, since I came on board is to be transparent and to meet the needs of our families, of our students. And that's what we're doing. We can't solve what we don't know. You know, so once again, please reach out to the building leaders. Please reach out to your student's teacher. Let us know what we can do to help. So just one more time, a couple upcoming events. And thank you for the person who put up the cluster strategy. Thank you, I appreciate that with the zones. Next Tuesday, we have a board meeting on the 8th. They will continue to be Zoom. And also we have, like I said, we have the budget vote on the 15th. December 16th, we have our diversity committee meeting. We have over 20 members. That's very exciting. And, you know, once again, I want to thank everybody for their support. It's just great to sit here and have an hour conversation about people wanting their children to be in school more. So I know it's frustrating that we can't move as fast as we want. You know, I would love every student that would like to be here 5 days a week to be here 5 days a week. We know it's a struggle, but that's a good struggle to have. Is the fact that we want more students want to be in school more days. So that's kind of a godsend. So to me, that's a wonderful thing. Any last thing? I got a minute. Okay, with that, thank you very much. Please have a safe break. And once again, you know, anything you need is a phone call away. Thank you.